Hello everyone, this is Dane Camillo from Dane's Great Journey. Thank you for tuning into another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about how to manage your personal finances. And I know this is a huge topic around the internet, around just the conversations I have with young people on a day-to-day basis, because there's so many complications, there's so many confusions as into what's the best method to do it. Should you even manage your finances? Should you put it in a spreadsheet? But in today's video, I'm going to teach you the ways I've set up my personal finances where it is extremely easy. It gives you complete control, as well as it's all automated. So you don't have to think about it. It takes a little bit of work in the front end in terms of just creating the systems and processes. But then once you're done, it's all set up and good to go. And you know where everything is going when it comes to your money. And you can also build an emergency fund. This has given me the ability to build up an emergency fund of 6 months, as well as have discretionary spending habits, to have discretionary money to spend, as well as be putting money away in investments and in 401ks and just allocating money so I have control and I can breathe, right? You might be in a space where you're like, I don't even have enough money to do anything else outside of pay my rent, and I'm really living month to month, right? There's not enough money at the end of the month, if you've ever heard that saying. So I just want to share with you some simple strategies that I've learned that I've put into a simple system that's completely automated, and it's very easy to follow. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm also going to be sharing the tools I use, which are all free, so you don't have to spend a dime to get these things set up. It's extremely easy, and at the end of the video, if you watch all the way through, you'll be able to take this stuff and go implement it and set this all up for yourself in about maybe an hour or two if you're really kind of looking into the tools and how you can kind of tweak them and things, and then you're going to be good to go. So let's sit back and get right into it. So managing your personal finances, a way that I like to think about managing personal finances is breaking things down into buckets, right? So I figured out a way that's really easy is kind of like the 50-20-30 method. And you might have heard this online, and this is a really good way to start for beginners, and then you can expand on this as you go. So what is the 50-20-30 method? The 50-20-30 method is a way to break down your income, your monthly income, into buckets. Now 50 is going to be in 50-20-30 are percentages, right? So 50 is going to be 50% of your income is going to go to fixed costs, right? This is going to be the stuff when it comes to your rent, your utilities, your phone bill, your gas, your groceries, the things that you absolutely need that are fixed in your life, right? These are things you need every single month. So this can be less than 50%. It could be all the way up to 60%, but ideally you want to get it around 50, or if you can take it down to 45 or 40, that would be even better. There's obviously going to be some constraints there because it depends on where you live. If you live in California, your rent's going to be higher. So 50 could jump up to about 60. But think about it in this way. Break down your monthly income into 3 buckets. One is going to be fixed costs, and that's going to be 50%. Now let's go to the next bucket. And again, we're just setting the foundation here, the framework for this. The next bucket is going to be your investments and your savings and your debt. And that's going to be 20%. So 20% of your income every single month. And again, guys, this is just a baseline where you can start from. If you need, depending on your situation and where you're at, you can lower this or increase this. If you have more bandwidth to invest or save, you can do that. But again, framework to start from, right? So 20% is going to be the investment bucket, the saving bucket, as well as your debt, right? If you have a student loan debt and you need to pay that off, that's what's going to fall into this 20% bucket, as well as if you're putting money away, right? Like your rainy day fund, your 6-month reserve, because if you lose your job and you need to be able to survive for 3 to 6 months, this is what's going to be in that bucket as well too. If you have a 401k that you contribute to at work, right? It takes about maybe anywhere from 2 to 6% of your income, as well as if the company matches it. So it can be all the way up to 6% of your income that comes in every 2 weeks. If it's biweekly or weekly, that goes into that. That can be accounted into this investment and savings bucket as well. So that's 20%. And then the 30% is going to be your wants bucket, right? Your wants in your fun bucket or your play bucket, if you will. And again, this bucket, I know I'm putting it at 30%. It can be less than 30%. It can be 20%. It can be 10%. This all depends on where you are at financially, right? We obviously have to figure out where you're at financially. If you don't have any money and you're really strapped, that's going to obviously have to be lower. But again, this is a framework to kind of play from. So again, this 30% bucket, it can be things like going out and spending money on drinks, on food, like going out to restaurants, as well as spending money on going to the movies, or spending money on clothing, right? That's what's actually going to fall into that 30% bucket. So 50, 20, 30, you could even flip it and do 50, 30, 20 if you want to put more into the investing, or if you have, like, let's say a little bit more debt and you want to throw that into that bucket, that's completely fine. So that's a framework and the foundation for how this all starts. Now we're going to kind of move into how you actually strategize and move things into this, so it kind of happens automatically. First and foremost, if you don't already, you should be getting, your income should be coming in the form of direct deposit every single month. If you're just getting a check and then having to go take that to the bank every single month, you want to obviously automate that process so it goes right into your bank account. So that's number one. That's really easy to do. You can go and talk to HR and set that up in 2 seconds. Next, let's say you have a debit card and you have a credit card, right? You have a debit card that's getting that check every single month into it, and that debit card's building up. And you might have a savings account on that debit card, which is great, right? That can be where that savings bucket goes every single month. So you have that checking account, the savings account, and then you maybe have a credit card that you have a $500 to $1,000 to $2,000 limit on every single month, whatever that might be. What I suggest is setting up another not another credit card, but another debit card where you can take and pull from your monthly income that comes in every single month to that specific card. So I'll tell you exactly how I have it set up. Every time that my check every single month, bi-weekly hits my debit card, I have a percent of it that I pull into another card that is a card that I use specifically for my discretionary spending, right? On if I want to go out with my friends or things like that. So I have a certain percent that's pulled from that income into this card that literally only holds that money that I spend on things that I go out and, whether it's going out with friends to grab a drink, or going to the restaurant, or seeing a movie, or whatever it might be. So every single month that builds up, and I only have that much to spend on it every single month. So I never have to think about, am I overspending this month when it comes to that? And that's a percentage of my income, right? It could be 30%, it could be 20%, it could be 10%, it could be 5% that falls into that bucket. And the actual company I use, it's a free card company. It's called Vero Money. It's actually very new. They're a tech startup, but they partnered with a bank and they help you kind of do a lot of other things. And I'll link the description to all the tools below, but that's the specific card I use. But I only use it for that specific thing when it comes to using that card for discretionary spending, fun things, and enjoying myself. Because then I have that month that I have that certain amount I can spend every single month, and then I don't have to actually think about using my card that's holding the rest of the money on there for my, my rainy day fund, as well as my fixed costs that I have to spend on every single month, right? So that's another thing that you can do. Another thing I would recommend too is automating all of your expenses if you can and you have the bandwidth to do that. Automating your rent so it's taken out every single month and you don't have to go and pay it and miss a payment, because different apartment complexes will ding you and charge you fees for missing if you don't pay on the first of the month, as well as automating your utilities when it comes to APS or whatever it is you're using, as well as automating all those other utility bills or expenses, whether it's your phone or anything like that. Anything that requires you to do something physically, try and get that on autopay if you can and you have the bandwidth to do that and you have a little bit of savings up in there. If you don't, just make sure you set reminders. You set reminders on your phone or calendars to pay that 2 days, 3 days in advance, because those overdrafting fees, those late fees, they add up, and you obviously want to be able to eliminate that at all costs. So first tool I was talking about was Vero. Another tool I want to talk about that I love and it's super easy is on the investing side. So when it comes to investing, right, it depends on how many books you've read or how much you know, right? You might have a personal financial advisor, or you just want to do it yourself. Something I found that a lot of young professionals are using today, which is super simple, and it really helps automate the process of investing for the long term, right? Because let's say out of that 20% bucket of investing money, 10% of that should be put away for the long term, right? So if you're making, let's say, $3,000 a month, and out of that 20% bucket for investing, $600 is pulled, you should take 10% of the 20%, so that'd be half, which is like $300, and put that in some type of long-term investment, whatever that might be. Now, again, if you're thinking like, I have know nothing about investing, I don't want to hire a financial advisor who's going to take X amount of percent, think about the tool that I like to use, which is really simple. And this is not just the only thing you need to do when it comes to investing, is a tool that I like in what's called Acorns. And basically what this is it's an app on your phone that takes money and puts it into the stock market, and then diversifies it in the portfolio that you like to choose based on your age, based on your risk tolerance. And it basically invests that money in the market, and it's basically a long-term investment. You can take it out at any time if you want. but I encourage you, if you're going to use a tool like that, to keep putting money into it every single month and investing in it, because if you know, stock market goes up and down every 8 years, but if you look at it from the long term and you're in your 20s, it's a great way to start just to become an investor, right? So many people never invest, or they never start investing, but this is a way to get you into the game. They always say the earlier you start, the better. And if you save and you put yourself into a vehicle that can maybe make 5% or 10% or 12% returns over years, and it's just a way to get started, right? Especially if you don't know a lot. I'll link the Acorns tool below too. It's free. And they also have another feature on it, which I love, which are roundups. So what roundups do is, let's say you buy a coffee and it's $2.45. That 45 cents, the additional 15 cents that would round it to a dollar, would actually be invested in your Acorns account. So it's basically investing your change to help you put a little bit more money into it as well. And this is, again, this is just one kind of little investment tool that you can use to start just putting a little bit of money away every single month. And again, if you can't save a ton, you have to kind of really balance it out. Maybe it's only 5% that you're saving a month and putting into something like Acorns, or even just saving it in your savings account, because you want to first start by building your rainy day fund, right? You should have a rainy day fund. Number one is that fund, that savings account that sits there and is only used for emergencies, because you never know what's going to happen, whether a car breaks or something happens at your job and now you have to find a new one, right? So you need that rainy day fund. And then you also want to see if you can have an investment vehicle, right? Whether that's something like Acorns, or that's something like your company has a 401k. And if your company has a 401k and they match it, let's say at 2%, 3%, 5%, or even 6%, that's free money that you can get invested. For every $1 you put in, they'll match that as well, depending on the structure there. So I highly suggest getting that set up as well. Some other tools I'll suggest for you to help you kind of manage your finances and your I guess credit, if you will, is another tool I love that I stumbled upon about 4 months ago. It's called Credit Sesame. I'll link them below too. It's a completely free tool. They do have a premium version. I just use the free tool because it gives you the ability to assess your credit and your debt to income ratio, which is great because you can look at it and it can say, this is your credit, because obviously you want to build up your credit, whether that's even getting a credit card if you can, but also, we can get into talking about that in a later video as well. I don't want to go too much into credit cards because people create a lot of problems and frustrations with themselves being able to spend and not make those payments on time and things like that. But for Credit Sesame, it basically monitors your credit and helps you manage your credit so you can build your credit. And it's a free tool, and it doesn't ding your credit for showing you your credit, which is great. And then it also suggests things as well as, what you can do with your college debt to help pay it down, or can you consolidate your college debt? Can you get, what kind of loan could you get if you needed one? It just gives you kind of more insight into the management behind your credit, because that's another important part about managing your finances and your ability to be able to spend money and, make money. That's what Credit Sesame does. I'll link it below too. It's a great tool. Check it out. It's free to use. And then the other one I would recommend too, which is another free tool, is Mint. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Mint, but again, it's another way to just manage your finances. It actually helps you create budgets to say, I want to spend this much. So let's say you're taking your wants in your fun bucket of that 30%, as well as your fixed cost, and you can break it all down into buckets that show you every single month. It sends you a report of exactly what you spent. So you do not have to do your own spreadsheets or anything like that, or break it down on an Excel file. I do not do that. It's all automated, right? It's all, the income is going to different areas. And if you ever want to set up an additional checking account, which I've done as well, that just pulls money, a percentage of your money, and can be spent, you can do that as well. So let's say you just want to have your savings account that saves your money from the direct deposit that comes in, have your spending account, right, for your fun stuff, and then have another checking account that takes all those fixed costs, and all those fixed costs are on there. Maybe it's a credit card that you're earning cash back on. You can do that as well too. So these are a bunch of different tools you can do. Honestly, if you want to just implement one of them, that's fine. That gets you started in the whole process of managing your finances. But what it really comes down to, for me, just from what I've learned and been able to now take back control and really give me clarity from the inside and outside of what's actually going on, is being able to just see where things go and have that control. So you can see how much you're saving every month, how that's going up, as well as what's going out every single month, and being okay with that because you've already taken that to account, right? So when you sit down and you start saying, okay, what's my 50? What are my fixed costs, right? Out of that income that's coming in every month, rent, you can break that down for yourself. Again, this is like that pre-work that you would do ahead of time to say, okay, this is how much I make every single month. This is how much goes out. These are my fixed costs. Then you can take it into the next bucket. Out of my fixed costs, this is X percent of my income. This is what I have left over every single month. Okay, what percent do I want to put to investing, to maybe even giving back or tithing, if that's something you believe in? Or how much of that do I want to spend on fun things? Maybe you want to be a little aggressive and not go out as much and save more money. That's completely fine too. But again, now you have kind of a foundation. You have some tools. I'll link them all below so you can check them out and you can start doing this. But again, nothing happens until you get yourself in the game, right? You start taking control. I know it's fearful to say, I want to look at these things, but how good am I doing, right? It's okay. You just need to get started and you need to start taking back control. That was the biggest thing for me, is giving me back control over my finances to see what was what, and now being able to allocate and direct it in the way that I can. So that's going to conclude this video, guys. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you want to comment below what takeaway you got from this video or what strategy you're going to use, I'd greatly appreciate that. Let's have a conversation below. Let's see what you're implementing. I'd love to get some feedback from you guys and see how this is helping you. It's helped me extremely. You know, even from all the complicated books out there when it comes to finances, this has been the easiest thing for me. And again, this is a starting process for beginners, for young professionals that you can build upon. You can start taking those percentages and, you know, tweaking them and making them more, because that 50, 20, 30 has broken up a lot more for myself because I've just grown into the process. And the same thing will happen to you too as you start doing it, as you start learning more about what's happening. So leave a comment below. Give the video a like if you found some value in it. I'd love for you to subscribe and stay tuned for more content coming soon, guys. Thanks so much for watching it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.